Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where I talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Van Helsing. In this episode, we had the group that that Vanessa rescued last episode, basically trying to fit in with the new group. Basically, they were taking some food and stuff like that, and Axe was like, yo, slow your roll. What the hell are you doing? We got to ration out some of this food. It's like, don't come in here and just start taking things. It's like, this is our place. You're kind of guest in here. I mean, really, Axe was more pissed that they're there. For one, it's more mouths to feed, so meaning less food. They already have very little food, and the rations are going to go by even quicker now that there's like more people there. But also because them being there means Vanessa's not there. It's like, because even Muhammad's like, oh, what do you want to happen? Didn't be left behind dead? It's like, she couldn't leave them behind. He's like, yeah, I know, but still, I'd rather have her here than them here. It's like, if they ended up dead, oh well, but at the very least, it would mean that she's here. So, I mean, really, it seemed like Axel was actually going to go rescue her this episode. I was like, okay, he's going to pack up his stuff, try and keep everybody, it's like everybody stay in their place. We'll go get everything situated, keep everything situated here so I can go off and find Vanessa, essentially. I don't mean to just say rescue like she did. Well, it's kind of half and half because she does kind of take care of herself. Plus, she's kind of in a situation where she needs not necessarily rescuing, but more so backing up. I should just refer to as backup. I don't know why I said it like that. But, I mean, that kind of all got twisted, when that dude that they brought in ended up dying. Which, first of all, the doc kind of was like, oh, no, first of all, I want to focus on what the doc was saying. I brought it up last episode, how she's like, oh, there's this killer situation, and it's like, oh, you're worried about Vanessa, you should be worrying about this situation. She kind of throws that back in this episode as well, being like, we still have to worry about a killer here. I mean, even more so because there's other people here too, so there's more victims. But, to me, I gotta bring it up again. Axel kind of points out the fact that, it's like, I still gotta go get her. And I was like, she kind of, like, I know it's crappy to say, but she's kind of more important in my opinion. It's like, as you can see, she has the power to turn vampires into human beings again. So she's kind of like a key. I mean, let's not, like, you literally spent the past 3 years looking after her. It's like, even the doc should understand how important she is, but I feel like she's not taking her importance. Like, I get it. Like, the way that this situation, it's like, okay, there's a killer here that needs to be dealt with. She felt like Axel wasn't taking the situation seriously. It's like, yeah, he was, but it's like, there's two things that going down. Like, Vanessa needs to be brought back. She's very important. She's the key to everything. She's the key to probably, hopefully, stopping this. She's kind of the hope for humanity, essentially. But, versus trying to track down a killer amongst this group. But, like, like I said, it's heavy situations on both, but it's kind of like, I kind of feel like I agree with Axel where Vanessa kind of comes first, especially because he spent the past 3 years of his life looking after her. Could have been doing other stuff, but he looked after her. I mean, and like, once again, she's kind of the hope for all humanity. They don't really refer to her as that, but it's like, you see what she can do. It's like, obviously. So it's like, why isn't the doc all for like, yeah, you go get her. I guess it's because it's like, if anything goes wrong, Axel's the more likely trained person to be able to handle the situation. I mean, I guess out of anyone, he's less likely to get killed because he has military training, because everyone else, they're just kind of civilians. So I guess that's a reason why. But getting back to it, the guy that was with the group that he was injured ended up getting killed. Axel and Doc try to cover up, but then John, being the douchebag that he is, reveals it's like, nope, there's a killer amongst us. And the guy was like, oh, I'm so pissed at you. Why did you tell us about this? It's like, well, for one, I mean, you literally prior to that had told Axel, it's like, oh yeah, what I do with me and my people is none of your business. And it's like, oh, you let us in here and it's dangerous. It's like, for one, nobody told you to come in here. You don't have to stay. We were here first. I'd be like, you can get out if you want to. It's like, you worried about a killer? Then get out. No one's telling you to stay. Axel would probably prefer it if you left. I mean, it's kind of like, you got your secrets, we got our secrets. It's a situation that we're kind of handling in-house. But I love the situation is John betrays them, and basically the whole team gets locked, because it's like, we don't know which one of you is the killer. And then he's like, and John was just like, yeah, you made the right move, because it could be either one of them. And it kind of gets the other guy thinking, and he locks John up too. I'm like, that's what you get, John, for being a piece of shit. Why would you do that? And who was it? Muhammad ended up bringing up. It's like, it awfully makes you look really suspicious. The fact is, it's like, oh, you worried about one of us being a killer, but you just betrayed us, so it makes you look even more guilty. Just start jumping on Muhammad, because it's like, well, the killings happened to stop when you left, and now they happen to start back up when you come back. It's just, and then back to like being like, oh, it could have been flesh, he's sleepwalking and stuff like that. It's like, oh, he's having these nightmares and stuff like that. Which I'm like, well, what about you, Doc? you want to jump down Flesh's throat. Let's not forget who also just got turned back into a human. So it's like if you're saying all this stuff about Flesh, you could say the same thing about yourself. And it's just, I mean, really, the whole point is the fact is that they're kind of tearing at each other's throats. Like it's like we don't know who the killer is, and that's the thing. Like I wouldn't be able to like. I mean, at this point, everyone's kind of guilty. It's like there's no telling who or what is the situation. Like I mean, it's. Part of me is like, they should explain how important Vanessa is, but even if they did, I doubt the other group would listen and be like, oh yeah, Vanessa, yeah, she can actually cure vampires. Doc here and Flesh over there were actually vampires before. For one, they'll probably get the situation. For one, even if they did believe in, which they most likely wouldn't, because it's like, oh, you're full of shit. Even if they did believe him, they'd most likely try and kill Doc and Flesh be like, oh, they can't be trusted, blah, 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 type of thing. So... But Muhammad being who he is, he decided to make things a little easier on everyone. He was like, you know what? I'm the one who did it. He lied about it and got himself kicked out of the place. They didn't outright kill him, which I was kind of worried that's what they were going to do. But it's like basically they exiled. Because the whole plan was like, we don't know which one of you the killer, so we're going to exile you. It's like, wait, how does that make sense? This is our place. You came here and hijacked it from us, and you're kicking us out because you don't trust us. It's like, if you don't trust us, then leave. I can't iterate that enough. But it's, it's kind of what Axel said at first. It's kind of like, oh, you're saying you're doing this for our good. It's like you're doing it for your own good because you found a good enough spot. And, Flesh kind of points it out. It's like, Muhammad's only beginning. Eventually, they're going to wither the group down. It's not even, to me, they're using that as an excuse, the whole killer thing. Yes, that's an important issue, and I'm sure some of it is about, trying to find out who the killers, because they didn't believe Muhammad's story. They kicked him out anyway because it's like, well, they can whittle the group down one by one until they eventually get to the killer. But truth be told is, really, this is just an excuse to take over places. Like, they found a good, strong, decently stocked, well fortified place that they can like bunker down in. So it's kind of like, why would we give that up? Like, let's take control of it, because for one, they have more numbers than Axel in the group. So it sucks, and it really sucks for Sam, because it's like cause we don't really know Sam and Muhammad's relationship, but it seemed like Sam almost treats Muhammad like a son. Like he's like, no, don't go. He's like, I'm the killer, trying to take blame for it. And Muhammad's telling him, no, we'll see each other again. And I guess one reason why Muhammad's more quickly to like willing to do this is because, he is trying to look for his sister, Sheba. So, and you still have John being like, oh yeah, because Axel's like, I looked in that kid's eye. He's not a killer. But then, have like John still being him is just kind of like, oh yeah, blah, 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 blah. It's like, John, you've sucked since like episode 1. Like, I get his situation, but he's going to be the problem dude. What I'm wondering is, are they going to make him, he was the problem dude from the beginning. Now he's becoming even more of the problem dude as the series progresses. I'm wondering, will he eventually kind of have the turnaround where he's kind of like actually the good guy that you can kind of rely on? Because there's plenty of series where it's like, that's kind of where someone's arc is. They're kind of like the asshole of the group, but then things kind of turn around and actually become one of the more likable characters. I don't see that with him. I mean, most likely what's probably going to happen is they're going to kill him off at some point. Maybe not. I don't know. He legitimately is one of the few characters that's actually got a name, because I still don't know that blonde lady's name, or the kid that died. I mean, I call her a kid, but she's probably like a teenager or closer to my own age, so it's weird referring to her as a kid. But the young girl, the first victim of the killer. Like, cause that's still the thing too. Why kill him? Like, I feel like it has to be connected to the vampires, like some back deal to like, kind of whittle the numbers down, kind of create dysfunction within the group or something like that. I mean, because kind of like the idea kind of put out there is kind of like the reason why the guy from their group was killed was because they thought it would lead to them getting kicked out. It kind of takes John off the suspect list, because he wouldn't expose them like that. If his plan was to get rid of the group, it would have been like he would have never revealed what was going on. Like there's actually a killer amongst them. So I think that takes him off and it kind of takes Axel off the board. But it's like it could literally be anyone. I don't think it's Muhammad. I really don't. It could be Sam, but I don't think it's so. It's really a tie between that lady, Doc, and Flesh. Like who it could be. Those are my 3 suspects. It's like I don't know. I mean, I feel like the twist is going to be that it's actually Doc, but it's like that unknown woman. I just feel like it's leaning towards her, but I just don't know why it would. Like, what is the real motive behind killing her? Like, because I've thrown out a possibility, but it's like, even then, I'm like, that's a good enough motive to a certain degree, but it's like, I don't know. I feel like it's got to be Doc, because it's like, because as we know, Doc isn't the most upstand character, because we know that, like, Axel's still under the assumption that it's like, oh, she got turned because she tried to save that soldier dude. It's like, no, she got turned because she kept trying to push him out while she was trying to close the door on him, even though he was right there and she could have saved him, but she was scared and terrified, which is understandable, but she hasn't even bothered trying to correct Axel. Like, she's kind of suffering with it, but she's not admitting, I guess she's too afraid. I guess she's afraid of what he might think if he found out the truth. But it does seem like the plan is to kind of retake. It's like, okay, we take it all back. So I don't know, because part of me is wondering, will Vanessa get back in time to kind of help the situation? Maybe, maybe not. I mean, considering her current circumstances, I was thinking like maybe Vanessa end up making her way back by the end of the episode, but that turns out not to be the case. So I'm curious where everything goes on that front. But then we take Vanessa's side of the story. Julius has her and everything, and basically wants to test whether she's really the way she is. And she ends up going up against Susan, who, I was wondering what part of it, I was like, where's she going to pop up in this episode? I was like, she's most likely a vampire now, isn't she? Because they bought, in the intro, they, shows like, oh, like Susan, it kind of showing previews, back from like the second episode when we saw her. But basically testing it whole out, and she ended up fighting Susan, and Susan kind of pissed her off by saying like, "Oh, your daughter was delicious" and stuff like that. And they got into that fight, kind of tossing each other around, beating the crap out of each other. And then Vanessa did that thing she did against Doc, where it was like she bit her in the neck, which, like I said, I still find it so fascinating that that's how she can also cure people. It's not just them biting her; she can bite them and turn them back into humans. But the thing is, like, it's really interesting because she is very vampire-like, because she's very savage. Like, she had that blood all in her mouth, and she's just kind of smiling and everything, which makes me think there's a part of her that enjoys this. Like, because when she bit Doc at first, it seemed like she was kind of feral for a moment, and then she kind of snapped out of it, and she kind of freaked out a little bit. But this time it was just like she was full-on feral. She was just kind of licking the blood around her mouth, and it's like, holy crap, you're into this. Whether she's doing that consciously or subconsciously, because whatever's in her DNA, whatever is flowing through her blood, like, she is something else. She's definitely not human with the power she has and being able to cure them. Like, there's something vampiric in her, but I don't know if that's necessarily what that is. But she acts very savage, like a feral, vampire. So I don't know. I just found that very fascinating. Just like, she's like, who's next? And it did seem like the plan was to kind of bite time, haha, pun intended, end up getting Susan back. End up finding out Susan was just talking mad shit, which I kind of figured as much. Was just her way of kind of messing with her. It's just kind of the vampire inside of her doing whatever she can to kind of mess with her prey, essentially. Basically, the last time she saw Dylan was when, after what happened to Vanessa, she went over to Susan's apartment. They got in contact with her dad, Dylan's dad, Vanessa's ex, and he was going to possibly be coming to get her, but before that could happen, the police came and took her in. I guess it's just kind of like, well, since there's no actual guardian there to kind of take responsibility, or there's no family for her because her dad's not nearby. I guess they kind of took her in because, well, for one, she was probably a witness to the whole incident, plus, probably put her in child protective services until, her dad got there or whatever. And that's the last time Susan saw her. But what I'm very curious about is what's in that place that Vanessa and Susan kind of ran down. Because even the vampires were scared to go down there. Like, basically, Julius was like, you go down there or you die. Like, oh, you're more afraid of going down there than me. Like, one of the vampires is just like, well, no human's going to survive down there. So what's the point? It's like, well, she's not human. I mean, at least Vanessa is. That's what they were talking about. But it's like, as you can see, there's something down there, but what that thing is, I don't know. Because, I kind of missed it for a second, but then it grabbed one of the vampires, and Vanessa could see it kind of off in the distance, and then the last thing we see is her and Susan running from it. But it's like, whatever it is, it's got the vampires scared. Like, Julius can act all tough and everything, but it's like, I don't see him running down there trying to go after Vanessa. He's sending his lackey, so I'm sure on some level, even he's scared to go down, or whatever it is scares the crap out of him too. And in this episode, he mentioned the woman, Rebecca. He's like, oh, using Vanessa to get to Rebecca to get to Dimitri. I can only assume Rebecca's the lady We kind of the other vampire lady we saw this episode, the one that happened last episode. She screwed the dude, and then she ended up killing him. I'm assuming that's Rebecca. Um, there's that whole situation where that little girl, not little girl, I can like I'm keep saying like pretty sure she's probably Sheba, Muhammad's sister, because it's like they're giving for one like because they focus on her too much. It seems like we still haven't got her name or whatever, but it's like they're focused on her too much. Plus the previews kind of make like when they're kind of like, oh, what happened last episode is like makes it seem like that's her anyway. So, but it's like if she was just some regular nobody, I don't think they focus on her as much as they do. But she basically snuck into the place because she's trying to get like blueprints for the place so that they can gather up weapons and kind of topple the vampires, kind of break free from the vampires. And while she was in there sneaking around, like I said, the woman I think is Rebecca ended up pulling her out, and rather than killing her, she let her leave. She got back with the blueprints. It's like, okay, this is where we can break in. They haven't really 100% discussed their plan, but they're like trying to get armed up so they can take on a vampire. Which I'm kind of like, you're basically screwed because Vanessa knows you're sent now. So the moment you go back, you're completely screwed. Because Vanessa let her go. And it's like she let her go. That's the thing. It's like, why would she let her go? Like, maybe she just took an interest in her, but it's just kind of like maybe she kind of knew that Sheba was up to something and was like, well, I'll let this one rat lead the other rats straight to me. Lead these other, lead the cattle to the slaughter, essentially. It's kind of the metaphor I was going for. Because she even said it. She's like, "Oh, you were the girl you're the one that was watching me. I could smell you, and I recognized your scent. That's why she was able to capture her this time. Because it's like I recognized your scent from before. So it's like she's got your scent down. So that means like you and go in there with them to get the arms. Whatever weaponry you're going to get, she's going to know. And I think that's kind of the whole point. Not unless actually we have Sheba setting them up. It's like because Sheba's like, please let me live. I'll do whatever you want to. I can help you. Maybe we didn't get to see it, but maybe Rebecca approached him and was like, do this for me. Oh, you're helping out the others. Bring them to me, and then I'll make it worth your while. She set you free or something like that. So, I mean, that's total possibility. I don't know. Like I said, like I'm still trying to figure out what Julius really wants to use Vanessa for. Like, she is your destruction, but I guess her being what she is, she can be the greatest tool for him. It's like, what does he plan to gain? Like, I legitimately think he's trying to topple Dimitri because Dimitri's kind of at the top of the hierarchy and it's like trying to be top dog, run everything. And it's like, but how does Vanessa help you with that? What does Dimitri even want with her? It's like, because the plan was to kind of turn her, but it's like, because that was before Julius and them knew about what Vanessa was capable of. But even then, it's like, why was that even a possibility? It's like, oh, there's this woman to protect and turn her. Why? Maybe because Dimitri was telling them to do that, but it's like, I guess Dimitri knew she was special, but didn't know. I mean, because he had to have known because they kind of brought that up before, like, we saw in the flashback on episode 2 where it was kind of like showing you what happened before. The vampire who went there talking about he drank someone's blood. So maybe they didn't realize that Vanessa was special because, I mean, it seemed like Julius kind of liked her smell because he sniffed her and she's like, go ahead, take a bite if you want to. I know you want to. So it's like maybe she kind of it seems like she has very intoxicating blood because the person who stole her blood packs, like back in episode 2, was like sniffing them, like sniffing all the different blood packs and caught with her first because hers just smells, I guess, extra delicious or something. So maybe it was just natural, like Dimitri was like, oh, I need her, or Julius was like, oh yeah, something about her special, turn her, or something like, I don't know. Like I said, it was just every episode, just a little bit more mystery added to things. I was really so sure that Vanessa and Susan were going to make it back in time or something like that to be like help with that whole like, oh, these guys are overtaking the the hospital situation. So, and how, I mean, I'm curious whether Muhammad will kind of finally catch up with his sister or not, or where he's going to end up. He is kind of on his own, and I'm sure there's not going to be any tracking him down. Like even when the whole situation's settled, I doubt they'll be able to kind of track him down because I'm sure Axel's main focus is on getting Vanessa back. But I'm curious to see, like, will Vanessa kind of make it back on her own? Will they have to track her down? What was it going to be? Because I was kind of under the impression like the whole season was going to take place in the hospital and everything. What I want to know is like, will Vanessa kind of be on the outs the entire time, and it's like, will the hospital be the base the entire season? I mean, I feel like there's with a show like this, I feel like there's going to be a point where they're just going to have to leave, whether it's because they have to blow up the hospital because so many vampires are invading and they have to get away or something like that. And also, we learned about a group known as the Resistance, basically a bunch of humans trying to fight against the vampires. I was wondering, it kind of crossed my mind, I was like, is the people that Shiva's with right now really the Resistance? I'm like, nah, because they're more like, honestly, slaves, sadly, to the vampires and everything. So it's kind of like, I doubted them. Like, but, maybe they could be who, Muhammad ends up running into, because he said like because that other group, the ones taking over the hospital now, had like they were making whispers about some resistance, and Muhammad said yeah, he heard about them. Axel just thinks it's kind of horseshit because it's like, oh, a group of humans rising up against the vampires. Yeah, sure, like there's a whole group of them, and then, that might be the case. I mean, I'm very curious. Like, we haven't really seen anything on that front. I mean, because from where we're standing, it kind of seems like, hey, vampires are in complete control. There's no one really there to stand up against them. But, I mean, maybe that's where the story will eventually leave Vanessa and this group kind of finally meeting up with the resistance or whatever. But I wonder who the killer is. Like, that's just kind of like, I wasn't expecting kind of like a murder mystery aspect to this show, but it's kind of like, yeah, that's the mystery aspect. Like, who is the killer and for what purposes? It's like I say, I knock it down to those three. I don't think it's Sam, but it could be Sam. But so I'm putting him in a maybe file. But the most suspicious is Doc, Flesh, and the lady who I don't know her name. Just because it's like, for Doc and Flesh, it's because they're vampires, and the lady I don't know her name, it's just like, I don't know, like, she seems the most suspicious out of everyone. Like I said, John would be on the suspect list, but I feel like he wouldn't. I feel like the motive for killing the guy was the fact is to get the other group out of here, because that would just complicate things more, their presence there. So I really don't think it would be John, because if it was John, he wouldn't have admitted that to them, because the whole plan backfired when he got arrested. So it's kind of like, that didn't work out in his favor anyway. So I don't know. I mean, that's just how I'm thinking about it. But overall, a very good episode. Very curious to see what goes down next episode. Well, that's really all I wanted to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.